Hey, everybody, it's me, Chris, and I'm back with another episode of Humble Beginnings, the podcast where humanity and humility meet. And today, my very special guest is Silas Stapleton III, also known as Dear Silas. And you may know him from his viral hit, I Ain't Stressin Today. Silas, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm doing very, very good. Just blessed to be alive, man. So that's all I can really ask for.
Yeah, amen to that. And
Yeah.
for the audience, just a little background about Silas. He's originally from Mississippi. He's a creative rapper, singer, and trumpet player, and he owns his own record label called S&D Village. He studied music performance for a little while at the University of Louisiana in Monroe. And of course, he's had several viral hits such as Gullah Gullah Island, Skrr Skrr, and of course, the one I mentioned earlier, I Ain't Stressin Today, which has become sort of a self care anthem. And so, Silas, my first question for you is what aren't we stressing about today and why?
It's crazy. Yeah, what I'm not stressing about today is unnecessary, unprovoked hate against people. Yeah, it's wild because I actually got something that's going viral like right at this moment. That just kind of happened like yesterday and the day before yesterday. And it's just wild, man, when you promote positivity and and that brings out the negativity in people sometimes. It's wild, you would think, hey, you just trying to promote peace and let's us love one another. And some people, man, they absolutely loathe that. So right now I'm not stressing about the people that are upset about me fulfilling my purpose.
That's
Yeah.
powerful. And we'll kind of get into more of that stuff later about purpose and negativity. But for now, I kind of want to tap into something I found interesting because music was a bond that you and your dad shared, and he pushed you to play several instruments. So, where did your dad's love of music come from, and how special was that musical bond between you guys?
Yeah. So me and my dad, we didn't get to speak too much on like I would say where his love of music came from, but I just know he was just really, really a driven, hardworking person. And pretty much anything my dad attached himself to, he just wanted to be the best at it. And he started out playing clarinet and eventually he ended up on saxophone. But I just know he was just really dedicated himself to it. And once he started, he was like one of those guys, like he practiced every day, X amount of hours every day. And I want to be the best in here in the nation, in the state. And he was always like, first chair in everything he did. So for him, his passion lied within playing the saxophone. I can't really pinpoint like what made him want to do it, but I do know once he started doing it, he was just super dedicated to it. And as far as me and our relationship, he kind of passed that on to me, like coming up at my house, like you had to do something, you know, uh, that was influenced by music. And he started me out early, teaching me to play piano. And eventually that evolved into me playing trumpet. And originally I wanted to play saxophone like him, but it just didn't work out. And trumpet was a better fit for me. And that's kind of how we bonded. We bonded. That was really our biggest bond, actually. We bonded through music and just, instrumental music.
Mm.
Yeah.
And kind of to piggyback off of that, when you first started taking rapping and singing seriously, what were his thoughts about the music you were making, and in what way did he support you on your journey, or did he have any feedback about the way you were going in terms of music?
I can't really say he had any like feedback per se about the type of music I was making. I don't really think my dad was paying attention to what I was doing, as far as me, doing hip hop and early on. But I will say, he knew I was doing it, and I think his way of supporting was um to just make sure that I was consistent, at doing whatever I was doing. And also very early on, he really drilled into me to, you know, incorporate my horn playing into my music, into hip hop. And at the time, like, just being younger and, being more impressionable and thinking like, who would want to hear, somebody infuse, like trumpet, or play that, while they're doing rap. I didn't do it. And he's always like, that's what's gonna set you apart and that's what's gonna make you different. And everybody's not doing that. And I'm like, man, you don't know what you're talking about. But just being a kid, it took a while for me to realize that he was right. And now, I do incorporate it as much as I can. I play it, in my music. I bring it out in my live shows, and it does add a different element. Um, when people can see, you know, wow, like not only is he doing this type of music, but he's bringing out a horn. He's like a musician through and through. So it's definitely helped to shape like who I am as an artist.
Mm. And there was one keyword that stood out to me, where you talked about your father being consistent, right?
Mhm.
So I want to know, how do you stay consistent? Like, what lessons did he teach you about consistency, or what did you learn from him about that?
Um, my dad's thing was always like, um, he wanted to see results, rather than excuses. Always results, results, results. That's the only thing that matters in life. You can talk, you can say what you're gonna do, but if you don't actually do it, and bring about results, then it doesn't matter. So for me, I noticed that the results only came from being consistent. And maybe you can get results, but from not being consistent, but probably not in the way that you would really want, or in a way that's going to propel you forward in life, and whatever your craft is. It doesn't have to be music, it can be whatever. Consistency is key in anything that you're trying to build to be great. And yeah, for me, taking that and flipping that message and realizing that, like, okay, hey, I do great at this point in time, and then I just kind of fall back and I chill and I fall off, and then I start procrastinating, and then I come back, 6 months later, and I do it again. It's like when there's this huge like lapse of time in between, my moments. They really don't matter when I have those moments, because when you have this moment and you let this happen, you have to build it back up again. But if you're consistent, and you have this streamline of like, hey, success that doesn't really, and if it does dip, it only dips, slightly. Your chances of success are extremely, higher than they were before, versus you just, popping in and out. So I think like the results are better when you wake up and you do it every day, or you do it as much as you possibly can.
Absolutely. I like that. And I want to kind of get a little bit more personal. You've had your own battles with depression, insecurity, and self doubt. And in an interview that you did with Andscape magazine, you mentioned how you hated the way you looked, the way you sounded, your rap voice, singing voice, and how you wanted to be taller, and so forth. So, where did these insecurities start?
They start as a child. Um, I don't know if like I had enough affirming going around, uh, in my family environment, which probably could have strengthened that. Um, but yeah, as a child, you picked on, I was always made fun of. It's kind of like the kid to himself. My skin complexion was a huge thing, when I was younger. And it's just, yeah, you just look at, and also just looking at media and society, and what they portray as what beauty is and what being handsome is. And and I just look at myself and I look at what I see on the television, and it's the exact opposite. So naturally I thought to myself, well, I'm not that, so clearly, I'm not beautiful, I'm not tall enough, I'm not light enough. And yeah, that heavily contributed, to like my psyche at the time. Just in believing that I wasn't enough.
Mm. And so, how did you really make that transition and start to validate yourself and affirm yourself and believe that you are enough, that you're worth it?
Well, yeah, I just think it took a long time, honestly. It took a long time. Music, honestly helped, because it was an escape. It was a place where I could I could go and get out my thoughts and just, kind of affirm myself, and just learn how to love me for who I am. And I started to appreciate things about myself that made me different. And, and then I thought about, man, I spent so long like not liking certain things about myself because a lot of the things that I hated about myself became like the number one things on my list that I now love about myself. And I was like, man, you was tripping back then about, this and then I'm like, damn, like I'm happy. I'm happy about that. So yeah, just really being able to I would say, a small amount of self therapy, through the music and just getting into the practice of, saying good things about yourself and patting yourself on the back when you do a good job or, things of that nature.
And what's like your favorite affirmation that you love telling yourself every day?
Uh, I'm a genius. I say that because for a long time I wouldn't give myself compliments like that. And also, too, I would think like, that's just arrogant. You don't want to, you want to remain humble. And I try to remain as humble as possible. But I always felt like I couldn't say that. And now I say it because people would tell me that and I'd be like, oh no, I'm just, I would just completely, retract when somebody would throw me a compliment like that, and I wouldn't fully accept it with open arms. But now I'm just like, somebody say, man, I think you're a genius. I say, thank you. I appreciate it. And because, I started accepting it, I said, well, I should start telling myself that. And I do believe it. And at first I didn't, but after a while, if you speak those, types of affirmations over yourself, you grow stronger and more just confident in yourself and you start to notice the change of how you handle and approach situations. You approach situations with more confidence. You handle, things that come in, at you differently. Maybe if someone wants to speak bad things about you and you automatically think now because you've been affirming yourself over and over again, you're like, well, that's not true because I know who I am. So yeah.
I love that. And I love how you're talking about like the repetition of really telling yourself that you love yourself and just like validating yourself because I feel like a lot of people don't understand that. Just for me personally, I would think, oh, if I just say this one affirmation, it's all gone away, right? But it really takes work and just repetition and really just dismantling those beliefs little by little to get to a point to where you can reject the negativity when it comes in, right? So I'm glad
Yeah.
you talked about that. And I love that affirmation, I am a genius. And just speaking of just being a genius, you've gone viral several times throughout your career for songs like Gullah Gullah Island, Skrr Skrr, and I Ain't Stressin Today, and so forth. And so, having experienced several viral moments, how have you learned to appreciate the small moments that don't go viral or get the traction you thought they would?
Oh, that's a great question. That's amazing. I think that it really teaches you because there can it can breed some self-doubt when you have a viral moment and then the next two times aren't viral. But then, and you hit another viral moment, and the next three times or four times after that, they're not viral. And then it happens again. It's like those little small spaces in between that will really have you, second guessing your decision making, who you are, and that very quote or affirmation we just said, I'm a genius, and you start to think, am I a genius? Because it's not like what happened, like I'm doing the same things, I'm working even harder. Um, I'm like just standing 10 toes, in the ground about my decisions, like what's going on. And I think the reason why that's such a lovely question is because it teaches you to like in life there are gonna be highs and lows. And those low times don't necessarily mean that, you're not as good as you were, or you're not a great person, or you're not working hard. It's just timing is everything. I've had moments where the very small the things that did have small moments or they weren't viral. Um, and I thought to myself, like, oh man, like I thought this was great, you know. But then I got back out of it, you know, just through self-affirming and you know, and take those same let's say pieces of content and you put them out, you know, a month later or maybe just 2 weeks, and then they go viral, you know. And I think that kind of taught me it's like, man, it's not you. Sometimes it's just timing, and you just got to wait your turn. Sometimes. So now, you know, when those moments happen, I can't say I'm perfect. You know, I'm human. I still want to, you know, I work hard, and I want the hard work I do to breed success. But I do have that, you know what, hey, I know who I am, I know what I produce, you know, and I use that to get through those mid points where things aren't exactly where I want them to be. And I had to remind myself, you are still who you are, you know, and I am a genius. I'm a genius.
Mm. And just to kind of piggyback off of that, what is it truly like to go viral? Because I've never had that experience, but I'm always wondering for people who have such a huge song like yours blow up, well, several times actually, what is that feeling like?
Um, so initially I would say like the first time you go through it, it's a lot. It's a lot because it's like it's like a million things being thrown at you at one time. It's like a ball of lightning and you're trying to contain it, you know, and it's very hard because you've never held lightning in your hand before. So it's like, what is this? And it's an amazing feeling because it's like, oh wow, like, you know, this is what I've been working towards. I've been working like to get my art out to the masses. But then there's stages of it, you know, like it's like oh my gosh, I can't believe this is great. But then then stage two is, you know, I like to say people are gonna people, you know, in the world, and some people aren't here to um accept your art, or they're just here to just tear it down at the expense of you, just sometimes to maybe make themselves feel better, or because it's something about themselves they don't like, or people on the internet, some people just exist to say, hey, I'm waking up today, it's 7 o'clock in the morning, I have to disrespect someone. And be it going viral consistently or multiple times kind of teaches you, you know, to just really go back to that space, you know, of who you are, and not to let every small thing get at you, because, you know, I mean, the world is a big place, and people have the people have the right to feel how they feel. They can take in things how they want to take them in, and it's a great feeling. But after a while, it turns into, okay, how do we capitalize? How do we prepare? How do we stay prepared for when this happens? What do we do beyond, you know, the excitement and the craze of, you know, a post? How do we turn this into the next level? Or, you know, how do we turn this into money? How do we, you know, bring people out? You know, like for me right now, it's like going viral. It's like, okay, that's cool. The fun part, you know, is over. It's more so like we have to turn and put our business hats on now.
Mm. Gotcha. And just kind of continuing on again with that theme of genius, something I find pretty cool is you spend a lot of time promoting your music. And one of the ways I've seen you do this is through incorporating your niece in your videos. So tell me more about that thought process behind incorporating her into the mix. And I want to know too, are there like any lessons you're teaching her along the way about self love and just affirming herself?
Yeah. So what's crazy is like incorporating her into the videos. It wasn't it was really nothing like tactical or strategical about it. I was just, man, really, really happy when she was born. My dad had passed maybe a week or so after she was born. And for me, it was just like a transfer of energy. You know, like I kind of felt like, you know, he left and she came, you know, not to replace him, but to kind of fill that void. or just to like bring some warmth back to a very, very cold feeling and time in my life. And I don't know, she just really made me happy. And I already had the song I Ain't Stressin Today. And when I thought about her, that's how I felt. It just, I feel warm. And I just wanted her to be a part of that, and that, that breeded another big moment. But for me, it was just like, I just want to have you with me right here today, and because it did what it did, people were like, oh, you should do this when she gets a little bigger. So I did it again when she got a little bigger. But other than that, yeah, I just, going back to like the last portion of that, uh, I can't really say I've been able to teach her much right now. She just turned 2 a couple of weeks ago, so she's still pretty young, but I really I would like to say she is teaching my family how to be different, how to react with each other differently than we did before. Like I would say, like my family, I definitely didn't come from like a super cold like situation, but we weren't like super lovey-dovey, conversations and dinners at the table and hugging. We didn't really do that. But now, my niece is different, and she's making us or helping us to become more comfortable with like, bringing that into our life, just openly loving each other more. And so I would say, if anything, she's teaching me, you know, how to be more loving. So yeah.
Mm, that's very powerful. And something else too that I'm curious about is your stage name is Dear Silas because you're always writing a letter to yourself and speaking life into yourself so you can get through whatever you're going through. So,
Mm.
what letter or letters are you currently writing to yourself at this time and why?
Right now, probably the biggest theme, which kind of segues, into the new music I just dropped, is just me really telling myself like, hey, no comparison right now. That's what I'm telling myself. Don't compare yourself to other people. Remember who you are. Your only competition is you. Only be concerned with, being the best version of yourself. That's what Dear Silas is writing to himself or me right now.
Mm. And just to follow up with that, when did you like come to that realization like, hey, I don't want to compare myself to others? Like when did you finally say I'm no longer going to do this?
Um, because it's so draining. I can't really pinpoint an exact time, but the reason why is because it leads you to absolutely nowhere. It's like, say you do compare yourself to someone and you say, man, okay, I know I'll be successful when I achieve the amount of success that it appears this person has, because you never really know, but when you're looking at, say, social media, but I'll be successful when I reach a level of success that this particular person has. And then, okay, you might achieve that. It's always going to be another level. It's always going to be someone else that may have more or may have achieved more. And now you're still stuck in this loop of not feeling fulfilled, because it's always going to be something else to reach. And that's when I had to say, like, man, you got to stop. You have to really define um what your happy is, what your success is, and not base it on what someone else has. And because it's just, it's a well that'll never get full. And so that's why I was like, I can't do that anymore, because it breeds like, it breeds depression, because you feel like you just can't fill yourself up, and it breeds a whole bunch of like just me not working, me not, me slowing down on doing the things I love to do. It breeds, when you're comparing yourself, you start chasing other things that's outside of who you are. Things that made you who you are, you start to forget that in pursuit of something else. So because it was changing the trajectory of who I was, and what made me me, that was another reason too. I was like, I gotta stop this, gotta remember who you are.
Absolutely. And there's something I also want to touch on, and it has to do with like energy and frequency. And this is something I found interesting while I was doing my research. So there was an interview you did with Streets A&R podcast several months ago, and you mentioned how you and your wife and manager Cookie are big on energy. So what kind of frequency are you two vibrating in, and how do you make sure that you're staying in a positive or high frequency?
Uh, Man, for us, it's just about, man, surrounding ourselves with people who are either, I don't want to say level as us, but or just people who people who want to attain or reach the same things that we want to reach. And I don't mean like physical things. I mean like, how you feel about yourself, how you treat other people. And that's really important for us. Um, on the road to building teams, because it's definitely necessary to have a team, with what I do. We've met a lot of great and talented people who are excellent at what they do. But who you are as a person and your aura can sometimes X you out of situations. And that is, kind of led us to make the decision to say, hey man, this person is great. They would do a great job with us. But I don't really agree with, how they handle this situation, or they talk to these people, or this group of people, or so we rather not be around that. Still wish that person well, but energy is very, very important. And it's important to us because we constantly trade um affirmations, you know, back and forth with each other. I have my day and I'm down, and she pick me up, and then she might have her day the next day, and it's my job to come pick her up. And we just really just want to be surrounded by people who, you know, the transfer of energy is good. If you are what you who you are, what you hang around, or what allow to breed or come in your life. And yeah, man, if it's something bad going on over here, I'd rather just stay away from that. And so I won't, by relation, let some of that energy seep into what we got going on, and start to crumble what we're working hard to build.
And you mentioned like being around people, surrounding yourself with people, right? But I'm also wondering, like, what resources do you surround yourself with? Some people, obviously, you've talked about affirmations, but there are some people that follow certain thought leaders or teachers, right? So I'm just curious, like, what other resources do you surround yourself with that keep that energy and frequency at a high state?
Yeah, the therapy. Going to sit down and talk with someone, and just working through personal battles, that I've had, because, working on myself um directly contributes to how I work with other people, how I feel about myself. And yeah, I would say therapy is a huge one. Same thing with my wife. We go to therapy together, and then we personally go to our own therapist too. So like that's something that greatly contributes to um, our energies, and making sure that we good all the way around.
I like that. And I love like just the partnership behind that too. And not just one person doing it, but both people doing it, elevating individually and together. So thank you for sharing that. And just to follow up again with energy, you've collabed with different artists, one of them being Snoop Dogg. So besides Snoop Dogg being this huge hip hop giant, what was it about Snoop's energy that made you say yes to collaborating with him? Or why did this collab just make the most sense?
Yeah, so I mean, Snoop is I would like to, arguably, I think Snoop is probably the most recognizable uh face, as it concerns like hip hop in the world. Uh I mean, your granny gonna know him, your little niece gonna know him, your uncle, we know him, So I thought that was really cool because, I've always looked up to him since I was a kid. And it's just something about him that which is wild, the song like I Ain't Stressin Today. It's something about Snoop that just breathes, I'm not stressing. It's like he seems to be, at least he does a great job if he's not, but he seems to be the most unbothered person on the planet. And there's nothing you can do to get under his skin. And I just thought, man, like that would be perfect. Like I remember at the time, I Ain't Stressing Today was going viral, and Master P, he reposted one of my videos. And I know like Master P and Snoop are like, super connected. And what's crazy is I thought in my brain, I went to my wife and I said, man, Master P posted this. I hope Snoop sees this, like that would be cool. I feel like it's possible, for him just to come across his phone or his computer or whatever he uses. And sure enough, a day or two later, he posted it. And I was like, he saw it. So that was a wild moment. And then I was like, thank you. Appreciate you for posting it. And then he DM'd me and he was like, hey, you need to let me get on this record. And I was like, yeah, of course. Yeah, what you mean? Yeah, let's do it. And that's kind of how it happened. I just felt like that was like a moment where like manifestation played, a huge role. And just the fact of who he was, and and I feel like how he is in person, it just made sense. It made sense to do that with him.
I love that. And I will say, just listening to the song, he definitely complimented it and just brought that ease to it, kind of like what you were saying. So that's definitely cool. And just continuing on with this theme of music, on March 1st, you dropped a new EP called On Red. So, first and foremost, who are you leaving on red? And are you leaving past versions of yourself on red or old behaviors, people?
Yeah. I like how you worded that. That's absolutely what I'm doing, especially the first part. I think most people, you think of leaving someone on red, you think of leaving someone else on red, but it's exactly like me really disassociating myself with past versions of myself that I don't, resonate with anymore, like lower level versions of myself in order to replace them with the higher, better version of myself. So yeah, I'm absolutely leaving myself on red. But yeah, for the most part too, it's also about, you know, making sure, your cup is full uh before trying to fill up somebody else's cup. And I have this record called Leave Me Alone. Like, like I love you, but please like leave me alone. But I still want my people to be on. Like it's no hard feelings. I want the best for you. But in order for me like to give you the best version of myself, I had to make sure I'm right first. Because if I'm like I've always been like a people pleaser my entire life. And that was really, really like pivotal in me making a decision to call this record On Red, because it's like, when am I gonna put me first? You know, I've been not doing it my whole life, and I want to unapologetically like say, nah, it's just about me right now. Because like even like having that conversation with you earlier, me being afraid or feeling bad about saying I'm a genius. That was the thing. So it's like, this is me screaming that out loud right now. Me saying like, no, I'm doing this for me. I love you. And if we're really connected in a way that we think we are, um, you can wait till I circle back. I'll definitely circle back because I love you, but right now I got some fixing and building and maturing to do.
Mm. And you mentioned your song "Leave Me Alone," which ties into my next question. And you're saying in that song, like how you're trying to break the curses of your generation. So, what are those generational curses that you're striving to break?
Um, so one being, like how me and my family operate with each other, like how we were speaking about my niece earlier, how she's like really teaching us how to love differently, how to accept each other differently, how to show up for each other differently, how to communicate with each other differently. And I know like that's really a huge thing, throughout my life with, like if I had those pieces, I probably would have been able to, handle uh being bullied a lot better, or it wouldn't have taken me so long in my life to start affirming myself. And so yeah, it's just really a lot of that. Just, um sorry, I lost the question for a little bit. Just trying to make sure that, I stay sold into that, and making sure that, like love is staying, connected as the base of whatever I'm doing.
Mm. And when you talk about how your family is loving each other differently, right? Can you give an example of how it was previously before you guys really started loving each other better, in a sense?
Um, can I describe how it was before it is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
I would just say like, it's a tough. Well, it's not tough. It's just that like I don't want to really portray like um I was just like in this dungeon or a cave locked away or something like that. But just communication was pretty much like non-existent, for a long time. Like I just, like my mom and my dad and my sister, like, we're all together. But, for a large portion of my life, I felt alone. And I felt like I had issues that I couldn't really discuss with anyone. Or I didn't have anybody to talk to about those issues because I don't feel like the welcome mat was there for me to feel comfortable to open up about certain things. And so because of that, I kept a lot of stuff in, and that ripped up a lot of stuff inside of me, and it took a long time to rebuild those things back up. So it was just, like really just communication. And when it came to um problem solving or like, resolution, that really wasn't a thing. It's just kind of like something happens, and then, you just kind of forget that it happened, and you pretend like it didn't happen, and you just kind of move on. So, and I carried that into my life too, with how I, dealt with things in my relationships, just pretending like something didn't happen, or running away from certain situations when things happen, that weren't favorable to, my relationship. So
I like that. And I feel like a lot of people, including myself, can relate like with the communication part in family. So thank you so much for just being candid about that.
yeah.
And just to kind of follow up again with your song Leave Me Alone, there's also a line where you say, I be purposely challenging my people internally. So I want to know, how are you challenging people internally? Or could you explain more about what that line means?
Yeah, man, I'm challenging people to be the better version of themselves, like to be the higher version. It's so easy to go low. Like that's the like every time it's easy to go low. It's easy to give up when things get hard, you know, because people say like, man, it's crazy because we got this joke, like I was telling you earlier about how, just because you do positive things don't mean you won't get hate, from people, in the world. And it's wild because like a lot of the times the people, that spew and throw like dirt at me, you know, they'll have like the most thought-provoking, messages, pinned to their account or in their bio, or, Bible verses, or being positive, or, and I'm just thinking like, damn, you're doing the exact opposite of what you're preaching about. And I want to challenge people to become that, what I'm saying, to start practicing really, you know, being what you preaching about. And even with like you got too much negativity is leaking from your soul, hate on everybody, wonder why you ended up alone, because your heart is made of stone. You too petty, you too grown, attitude is stinking. Come get you a dab of this cologne. Like I'm trying to challenge people to like, hey man, you know what? Give people grace. Like, why are you so upset? like, you have no idea what this person is going through. Like one thing I think about is like people are so quick to comment and say like outlandish and horrible things about people when they don't have one, they don't have the whole story. Number two, they have no idea what this person is going through. Uh Chadwick Boseman was going through it right before our eyes. No one had any idea. All people could see is that he was losing weight. But that was funny. That was what's he got going on? But then when you find out, you know, oh man, wow, I had no idea. But yeah, it's like give people grace. And another thing, was talking about just last night, till it happens to you. Like you don't want that to be a thing. It's all good and funny and everything till it's you. And I feel like if people give people grace in the moment when it does happen to you, I'm not saying it's not going to be hard, but I feel like you would take things a lot better than you did when because that's a lot of guilt that's gonna spew back out at you when you think about all the nasty things you said about people, and now this is the universe is returning it tenfold to you. So I feel like that's how I'm challenging people. I'm just really challenging people, man, to just try to be a better human being and treat people the way you want to be treated.
I like that. And I like the part too where you said it's easy to go low. Because it is true, but it takes effort to really go high and remain high. So I love how you're just challenging people to do that through your music and just through your words. And we touched on this a little bit earlier about comparing yourself, right? And competing with others. And you do have that song on your EP called Battling Me, where you're talking about that. But I have a follow-up question to that. I want to know, like, how are you making sure that you're having a healthy competition with yourself? And when I say healthy competition, I'm talking about making sure that you're challenging yourself, right? But also not overworking and making sure that you set your personal boundaries and just knowing your limits. So, how are you just creating those healthy boundaries with yourself?
Man, and that's a great one. And I'll be human enough to say that I'm still trying to figure that one out. I'm the lines are a little blurred between setting like, certain because the album is all about, setting boundaries, but not all about, a lot about setting boundaries between yourself and other people. And some of it is also me, but that's the part where that's where Dear Silas comes in at. I have to speak these things first, so I can then hear it and then internalize it and then try to figure it out. But yeah, so right now I'm battling myself in that sense where like, okay, today you need to step away from the mic, or you need to put the computer down. You need to go spend some time with your family, go on a walk. I think that's a good thing for me right there. Like that helps me. Um, Obviously spending time with my family, but just taking some time to just, be in solitude with myself, you know, not with a device in my hand, and just go. Nature is very, very healing for me. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the ancestors that's calling back and they like, hey, and they just, showering me with warmth and love or something. It's like something about when I go outside and the sun hit my skin that is just like a recharge for me.
Mm, I like that. And just kind of continuing on with that, there is a post that I saw on your Instagram page, and you talked about how you're in your don't give a fuck era. So,
Mhm.
what does that era look like currently? I know we talked about, not comparing ourselves to others and different things like that, but what else does that look like right now?
I mean, for me, it just means like not chasing what the world is telling you what you need to have, me like just 100% being me authentically all the way around, not chasing a viral moment, not chasing a hit. Just me putting out, my art in the way I want to put it out. And I don't give a fuck who likes it. I love it. I love it. And I know what I do. I know I'm great at what I do. I know the right people will find it, and I'm not worried about it reaching, because there was a time in my life where I was worried about like reaching every type of demographic, you know, every type of person, you know, and I was chasing things back then. And when you do stuff like that, you know, you end up losing who you are, you know, in the process. So me, I'm just really trying to like remain true to myself, you know, my message, you know, because I mean, at any time, you know, you could start to think, well, you know, like if you have a bad moment, maybe I should pivot, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe it seems easier, or people are more receptive to this type of thing. And I'm teaching myself how to block that out and not take the easy way out, you know, and just and stay on the path.
Mm, I like that. And again, I just like how you're talking about just redirecting yourself and making sure that you stay on your path and that you're not chasing, all these different things. Because I could sort of relate. I'm still small. I'm still growing. So I still kind of think sometimes, okay, I'm not doing enough, or maybe I should just quit altogether and stop. But again, just seeing people like you and just people that stay true to themselves, it really means a lot to just hear you say that.
Thank
Um, Mhm. And there was another Instagram post that you made that caught my eye, and we've sort of touched on this a little bit in the beginning. But you mentioned that those who don't understand you may try to berate you while you continue to elevate and become successful. And that when someone starts projecting their life emotions on someone else, they might want to reevaluate who they are as a person. So I'm curious, what have been some of the negativity or fears that people and these could be people you know or strangers have tried to project on you. And how have you really just stopped yourself from internalizing those fears?
I mean, it's happening right now, you know, and it happens a lot, not just when you go viral, but just at a higher rate. And like someone, like I have a video going viral right now, and someone said, "I wish they would have drove by and shot you," you know, while you were to wish death upon someone, you know, when my lyrics are saying, you know, you got too much negativity is leaking from your soul. Like that's, you know, like so yeah. And I just and but you have to remember, man, everybody everybody is not gonna like reach this place within themselves to where, you know, is a quote unquote higher version at the same time. And, you know, I take things in differently, you know, depending on the day. Some days I'm super duper positive about it, but then some days I'm just like, I will fight you in real life. Like, don't play with me. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm still a man at the end of the day. You know, thank God I got I got my wife and my friends to, you know, kind of bring me back down to earth sometimes and like, hey, remember, you know, remember what what you're doing and where you're trying to go. Um, but yeah, so I think that's just when someone says something like that unprovoked, it's like a mirror, you know, of us. It's got to be a mirror of something they internally battling with, you know, when they projecting, you know, like something like that on you. And, you know, sometimes people, and also people too, people like to follow the train of hate, you know. Sometimes people don't have a mind of their own, and they see one person do something, they like, I don't want to be left out, so let me join in, you know. So, but again, I just have to remind myself, you know, like, man, life is a journey. You never know what other people are going through. Even myself, like I haven't like I mean I'm not and I'm nowhere near perfect at all, you know, but I definitely, you know, haven't always been at the mind having the mindset that I have right now. I can't even say I was like the mindset I have now. I had that even 2 years ago. Um, so just really allowing people, you know, giving them more grace, even when they go low, you know, giving them some grace and allowing them some time to hopefully one day, you know, one day to reach, you know, this level of, you know, having better discernment and figuring out how to, you know, approach people differently than they have in the past. Like just for an example, um, this one guy commented on my video and he was like, I want to slap the shit out of you or something like that, or whatever, I guess for my video about positivity. And so, you know, as a joke, I went, it's people that like they forget that, you know, they see like you getting like you have all these followers and you getting all these likes and shares and thousands of comments, and they think like, okay, yeah, you know, like I'm still a human at the end of the day. You know, I see things just like anybody. I think people look at people who, you know, have huge platforms and think like, oh, like nothing affects them. So I went to the profile, and immediately I saw this quote about, you know, being better, you know, in life, and God takes us on, you know, these journeys and whatnot. And so instead of just, you know, going back lower with him, I retweeted that, and I put the praying hands emoji, and he came back immediately. He was like, damn, man, you win, bro. You just too positive. My bad. And it's like, why did he take that though? You know? And he immediately changed his mind. It's like, man, but I know it's like, man, he just doing it for the laughs. He not looking at me as a human right now. He just looking at me as an account, and he want to go as low as possible because he want to like, hey, y'all, look at me making fun of this person or saying bad things about them. And, you know, and he came back, you know, I returned and, you know, came at him with, you know, decency, and he retracted everything that he said. So yeah.
Mm. And just listening to that, that just made me think of this question. Like, how do you balance your ego? Because to be able to give grace like that, you would have to really kind of look at it outside of yourself. So I'm just curious, like, how do you really balance your ego and really just not take that so offensive?
It's hard. It's very, very hard, you know. I mean, because um I can't say that sometimes like I don't I don't snap back, you know, like because it's hard when like you have so many people. It's not like, okay, one or two people, you know. And I can't say, you know, for every like one bad comment, you know, there's 300, you know, positive ones, right? And, you know, I slip up, I'm human, you know, sometimes, but for the most part, I don't engage with it. And what helps me in those situations is remembering that, you know, all these beautiful souls, you know, encouraging and uplifting me through this situation, and not choosing to highlight this bad person. You know, like it's so much more like an overwhelmingly amount of people that are saying great things. You know, like that kind of helps me sometimes be like, you know what, I'm gonna let him be him. You know, but you know, every now and then, you know, I slip up. You know what I'm saying? But balance. I mean, yeah, I just try to remind myself of why I do what I do and who I'm doing it for. And when I remember that, you know, those people, man, they non-existent to me.
Mm, I like that. And this leads me to my last question. And I ask this question to every guest that comes on my show because my podcast is called Humble Beginnings. And humility is one of the principles that I value. So I would like to know, how do you stay humble?
Um, I think let's see, I stay humble because I wanna keep growing. I kind of feel like if you get to this place where, you know, you feel like I'm perfect, you know, if you're perfect, you got nowhere else to go. I feel like there's a ceiling. And I think when you remain humble, you know, you're always willing to, you know, I've been in situations where I'm having a conversation with people, and in my mind, I feel like, okay, I know what they're about to say. I have the answer already. But, you know, I still listen. And about 99.9% of the conversation, I'm like, yep, that's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. But that last 1 percentile, they'll let me know something new that I didn't know. And I'm like, damn, I'm glad I shut up and listen. And I think like that's why it's important to remain humble, man. If you want to keep growing as a person, like don't always think you got everything figured out.
Mm, I love that. And with that being said, Silas, thank you so much for just taking time out of your day to really come on my platform. I'm humbled that you're here. I definitely learned a lot today. I became a student and just really took in a lot of the knowledge and gems that you were saying into the audience. Thank you so much again for tuning in. And until next time, I will talk to you guys later.